Just as each glass of milk has whiteness entire and complete, each individual human has true soul, pure soul, entire and complete. It has soul in an apportionment of body, a complete soul in an apportionment of body, not a portion of soul in an individual body. And he goes on to say, right, that this, again, is, I've already used the example of the segments of a circle. We are not, our souls are not like numbers, right? It's not that the whole, the one soul, is the addition of all these individual souls. The whole is not the sum of its parts. And it's not that when a person dies, for example, the soul is detracted from, or that when a person is born, the higher pure soul is added to. It's that that pure soul is unchanging, eternal, and one, and it is in each individual completely. So, he says, in such a relationship, the all soul, of which the particular souls are to be a part, will not be the soul of any definite thing, but an entity standing aloof. And that means that it will not even be the soul of the cosmos, since this will be itself one of those partial souls. Thus, all alike, cosmic soul and particular souls, will be partial and of one nature. So this soul is entirely removed, outside even of the cosmos. And this is actually Plotinus refining Plato a little bit. For example, Plato will say, we see eternity in the movement of the cosmos. We see the intellectual principle in the movement of the cosmos. And Plotinus is saying, no, not even in the movement of the cosmos, not in anything physical at all. So, again, Plotinus is really hammering this point home, making it more explicit. This is entirely removed from anything physical. It is, as he says, not the soul of any definite thing. It is indefinite in some sense, entirely without body. Then why, he goes on, does one soul belong to the cosmos and the rest only to parts of the cosmos? Now, ultimately he's asking, how is it that soul then will be divided into all these individuals? Why do we need this division? We've asked this question a little bit before. How, more specifically, can this soul, which doesn't exist in any definite thing, which is wholly non-corporeal, which is entire and removed from the physical realm, how does it end up in bodies? This would carry the alternative that there is no soul outside of body, or that no soul being within body, the thing described as the soul of the universe is, nonetheless, outside the body of the universe. That is a point to be investigated. So, right, if this soul is outside of the cosmos, if it doesn't lie in any definite thing, how can we say it exists? Right? Why do we believe in its existence? And again, I think we might return to the explanation of beauty. Beauty is evidence of its existence in that we see the good in organization of matter. Organization, form, is evidence of something beyond matter that organizes matter, which is good in itself. And like all of Plato's forms, would be indefinite and to some extent thus unknowable, at least with the part of our mind that is used to thinking about the physical world. So again, where is it? How does it work? And I think there's more nice language here on 255. If the particular soul is a part of the all-soul only in the sense that this bestows itself upon all living things of the partial sphere, such a self-bestowal does not imply division, right? Soul bestows itself on individuals. There's another nice metaphor where he talks about the individuation of the physical world as the, again, rays of the sun. The sun bestows itself upon its own rays. The rays are not the sun itself. They are an inevitable and necessary consequence of the sun, can't be removed from the sun. You can't think of the sun without the rays. But those rays are not the sun itself. And so what we could say is the sun bestows upon itself its own rays. Similarly, the soul, by being the kind of thing it is, bestows upon itself this self-individuation into the physical realm. We as individuals are like the rays of the sun. Our soul is a self-bestowal of soul. We belong to the one soul. It is the identical soul that is present everywhere, the one complete thing, multi-present at the one moment. So I like this language of bestowal. Now, why then do we perceive things differently? Why does our soul, do our individual souls unfold differently? Plotinus goes on in the same paragraph on 255. All the powers are present either in seeing or in hearing. The differentiation among us arises through perception. He says, all the varying impressions are our various responses to ideal forms that can be taken in a variety of modes. So, again, I think it's useful to think of that language of soul qua the one, soul qua individual. And qua individual, the soul appears in different modes. It is perceived through different lenses. Those lenses are the embodiment of soul, in particular through the sensory faculties. The fact that we all perceive things differently through our sensory faculties is why the soul appears to be different in individuals. Okay. So we have several interesting points on 256, but I want to move on to 257, where he elaborates on this a little bit more. It says, these individuals, right, the division within the physical realm, says, by their succession, they are linked to the several intellectual principles, for they are the expression, the logos, of the intellectual principles, of which they are the unfolding. So each soul is, sorry, listen to my neighbors, each soul is the manifestation, the expression of the intellectual principle, and is thus its own kind of intellectual principle. And it is the unfolding of that intellectual principle that is individual to it, but which is ultimately derived from the over intellectual principle, the supreme principle. That's soul, he goes on, which abides in the supreme, is the one expression of logos, or the intellectual principle, and from it spring other reason principles, partial but immaterial, exactly as in the differentiation of the supreme. So the language that's useful here is that our being, our real being, our ensouled, our embodied soul, is an expression of the intellectual principle of the logos. If we remember again Heraclitus, it's interesting the extent to which Plotinus is picking up certain Heraclitean themes here. So, let me see, is there, let's say. So, again, what we are is an expression of this supreme intellectual principle, individuated into particular intellectual principles, rationalities that are given to the couplement of body and soul. And our job is to, again, self-gather, to dispose ourselves to the principle that makes us what we are. And in doing this, we achieve the freedom to be aligned with the truth. There's one more piece of language that I like here. And this is, I think, again, thinking about the way that soul, the one supreme soul, is responsible for all the individuated souls. And why it was inevitable that the supreme soul should become embodied. It says on 262 in the middle about the question of why soul becomes embodied. The true doctrine may be stated as follows. In the absence of body, soul could not have gone forth, since there is no other place to which its nature would allow it to descend. Since go forth it must, it will generate a place for itself. At once, body also exists. So body is the consequence of souls needing to go forth. It is what he means by this going forth is very interesting, because we know that the human is most itself when it is self-disposed in contemplation, that is, at rest. And if you're interested, I would recommend taking a look at the section on time and eternity, where he also says that eternity is a kind of repose. It is kind of non-action. We saw this again also earlier when we were talking about God and the intellectual principle being essentially non-active, right? That things issue forth from the intellectual principle not by an act, but instead through non-activity. So this going forth of soul is a kind, it would seem, of action or movement, at least. So I think what Plotinus has in mind here is that while the supreme intellectual principle is eternal and thus in repose, at rest, and non-active, it has as a consequence, issuing from it, this animate principle, life. And that life is the going forth that issues as a consequence of the non-activity of the intellectual principle in itself. Very difficult material here. But what he has in mind is essentially a Platonic idea where, again, things would issue forth automatically, right, as the physical world issues forth automatically from the intellectual realm. Okay, so we're almost at an hour and 20 minutes. I think we'll cut it short there, even though we've barely gotten through, even a third of the reading for today. So I apologize for sounding so much reading. Next class, on Thursday, we're going to be talking about Descartes. And that reading, I promise you, is much easier than Plotinus or Aristotle. It is pretty straightforward. It's there are difficult sections, but we're really changing gears next class. So I will get videos to you in time for you to watch them during normal class hours. I feel like that's really important, and I apologize for failing to do so yesterday. And we are leaving the ancient world now. We are done with Plotinus, moving on to the beginning of modern philosophy. So things will be very different starting next week. I don't know if I'll teach Plotinus again. I've never taught this text before, and it's in some ways, I think, elucidating of Plato, but also very difficult on its own. So thanks for bearing with me. Good job in keeping up the reading. And yeah, I think that's all from me today. I will post some more stuff on discussion threads. I will also be holding office hours again from 12:30 to 1:15, and again from 4:30 to 5:30 on Zoom on Thursday. Your papers are due on the 23rd. Write me an email or on the discussion chat, or come to office hours to discuss the paper. That's all. So, guys, stay inside, wash your hands. If you leave, if you have to leave, when you come back in, wash your hands. I feel as though I didn't give you all the proper warnings, all of that. But I assume you get them everywhere. And anyway, I miss seeing you guys. I miss having class. It's just not as good this way. But I hope you're managing, staying safe, keeping morale up. Keeping morale up is important. Okay, talk to you soon. I'll send another video for Thursday. Bye.